You're listening to Out of the Box with Rosie Tran. If you guys like us, add us on iTunes, subscribe, and on Stitcher Radio. Leave comments. It really helps us out a lot. And check out outoftheboxpodcast.com. I'm here today with author BJ Mendelson of the book Social Media is Bullshit, and also Twitter celebrity. How are you doing, BJ?
Hey, thanks for having me.
I am very excited to have you on here. So I hear you're writing a new book. I'm really excited about it.
I am. I just realized the name of the show is Out of the Box, and I was thinking it'd be awesome if there was like a porn star who hosted a show called In the Box.
Actually, when I told people I was doing a podcast called Out of the Box, they're like, is that a pun? And I was like, oh, I wasn't thinking like that. But I guess if your mind goes that way, it could be punny. No, I'm just like to talk to interesting and unique people that have different perspectives, and that's why I called it that.
Very cool.
So for those of you who don't know, BJ wrote a book called Social Media is Bullshit, which I love. I've read it and left positive reviews on Amazon for it.
Well, thank you.
So what was I know we've talked about this off the air, so it's kind of awkward to repeat things since you're like, Rosie, you already know this. But how did you get the idea to write the book?
I've always given people different answers. So I guess like the condensed version is that back in high school, I had this website that legitimately went viral, and it was just
What was the website?
It was called The Island because I'm a fan of the world's worst hockey team, the New York Islanders.
Okay.
Or a former fan, I should say. And so like the website took off, and I was like, oh, cool. I wonder what else I can make spread on the internet. So for a really long time, I had like these humor columns that spread all over the place. There was a thing like the universal breakup card. What would the Hulk do? I hate Captain Planet. So just like stupid shit like that, And over time, like people started coming to me saying, "Hey, how do you make this stuff spread?" And I got into doing that for other people. And not too long after, these douchebags started popping up, calling themselves social media marketers. And at first, I was like, "Oh, cool! They're just kind of doing what I'm doing. They're just using different terminology, and they're making it look sexier than it actually is." And so I was like, "All right, I'm gonna check this stuff out." So I got into it. I did this project that was entirely social media based. It was just a massive, massive failure, and I talk about it in the book. And I turned around and took a step back and said, "Whoa, let's do the same project one more time, but doing the stuff that I know how to do." And that project went on to be a multi-million-dollar success. That's going on its 5th year of operation. So that's really where the book came from. That's kind of a long answer, but it was just sort of seeing stuff that I had done successfully being described in this like really shitty, manipulative way by other people, and wanting to kind of get out in front of and say, "Hey, these guys they're lying to you, and they're making a living off of doing that."
Well, what I like about the book is that you really are not afraid to call people out. You're like, this guy's a liar, and this guy's full of bullshit, and this guy's also full of bullshit. I'm like, wow, BJ.
I gotta tell you, I'm a real hit at the parties.
Well, I also like that you call myth to... First of all, I know some people who are genuinely online successes.
Sure.
And that's great. And they try to spend their time teaching others how to podcast, how to use Twitter, how to use other applications. And they do it legitimately because they want to help people.
That's awesome.
And they have their own products as well, their own podcasts and other things, so they're basically sharing their story. But I do also know that there is a genre of quote unquote social media marketers that are just selling bullshit. And it's true, because I've been approached by little mini social media marketers who are like, let me help you with your Facebook. Let me help you with your Twitter. Let me help you with this. Thinking that I'm not going to know anything about it, because honestly, BJ, a lot of artists are clueless when it comes to social media marketing. And then when they see that I have a genuine following that I've built on my own, they're like shocked because they can't sell me the bullshit.
It's, I just came back from, so I've been living at, this is embarrassing. I had like major heart surgery.
I know, I was worried about you, and I was like, just so the listeners know, I sent BJ an email, and he had this, what is it called? Stock email? What is it called? Where you automated email that was like, basically, hey, if you don't hear from me, I'm dead. I'm I'm having major heart surgery. And I was like, oh my God. I knew about the heart surgery before, but the email was a little bit like, you're jarring. You're an honest guy, BJ.
Yeah, I try to keep it entertaining. But so like I'm at my parents because I wasn't allowed to go anywhere for months because of just, it was a shit show to put it mildly. And so I just went down. I'm close to New York City, so I got on the bus and went down there, and I had about like 7 meetings in a row. And this is like a variety of people. They had artists and a major agency in one case, and universally, like across the board, everyone had said, I don't know what to do. Like I don't know what's bullshit and what's not. And I've got like these social media marketers emailing me every day saying, well, go and do this, and I could do this for like $22,000, and they just, so many people are just frustrated. And so my whole thing is just, if I can get the word out and kind of fix it and save people money, then I can die happy.
That's good. That's a good, motive to have. I don't like it because there's a lot of scammers out there.
Right.
I know a girl that goes around telling stand-up comedians that she can do their Twitter marketing for them. And I've seen what she does, and it, basically she's just getting paid to do nothing.
Oh yeah, no, there's a guy
and respond to people's ads. That's like all she's doing.
There's a few of them. His name is Brian Solis, and I talk about him. I talk about him in the book, and what he does, and a couple of people have caught him doing this, is like he'll charge you $24,000 or whatever it is, and then he'll hand the work off to like some 22-year-old who like doesn't know how to do anything, and then
I don't know if these people are assholes or they're geniuses, because that's like you have to kind of have no soul, or maybe they're just like brilliant business people. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that in order to be a genius, you have to be an asshole. So I'd say there's certainly an overlap, and like so, I don't. It's not that I fault them for taking advantage. Like it's not that if they're going to make money, then okay, but it's still, because you can't stop it. There's nothing. I've learned to realize this over the past year, and over a year plus I've been doing the book and promoting it. You can't stop it. There's nothing that I can do or you can do or anyone can do that's going to stop people from doing that.
Yeah.
But at the very least, if you're going to do shit like that, you should at least tell people and say, hey, look, I'm not actually going to do anything here. Here's the 22-year-old. Have a nice life, and I'm going to go deposit. Like, it's very frustrating. Like every time I talk about it, it's very because you can't. There's nothing you can do. And
I don't know how to make something truly viral, and I think we've talked about this.
Right.
You gave me a lot of insights about the algorithms, and actually all of your advice helped. It's true. A lot of things that I have done, asking people to comment on things, because a lot of people don't understand that comments and likes and those little things, those interactions really make a difference. They're like, they're a fan of mine. They'll go and like watch something or follow me, and they don't realize that these things actually add up because there's computers calculating everything.
Right.
So I've really encouraged people to leave comments and do other things like that, and it has helped me a lot. But yeah, so thank you very much for that advice, and I hope other people leave comments. People, leave freaking comments and subscribe, and always put a thing.
That's huge for. Is the podcast on iTunes?
It is on iTunes, and I need more comments, people.
Yeah.
So that's something that has really, really helped me a lot. But I don't know how to explain. Like, I don't, you were on you said the original Twitter suggested user list, and you
Right.
have a ton of followers. I have a decent amount of followers for my level of being a comedian. I'm at about 9,000 right now.
That's awesome.
And even that, like, people are like, how did you get 9,000 followers? Some people have, some comedians I know have like 200 followers. And what I used to do is a good old fashioned, relationships with people. I used to make these cards that said, follow me on Twitter. And they had my picture and my Twitter handle, and I would hand them out after shows. And believe it or not, people would follow me on Twitter.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's what you gotta do. But no one wants, everyone wants the easy way out. And
well, people buy Twitter followers, or they want to do whatever, or they want to, get the secret. But I think the secret is just having people know about you by any means necessary, email list or comments or likes or sharing with friends. And I know that the algorithms and all that are important, but I think a lot of it is just old-fashioned marketing.
It is. Well, I'm convinced that it's just good PR at this point. If you can get a write-up and an inbound link to your Twitter feed, that's probably more valuable than almost anything that you can do.
Yeah, you gotta teach me how to do that stuff.
And I've been doing this for a long time now, and every single time someone approaches me and they're like, "Hey, how do I?" Okay, well, I'll give you an example. Like, I was talking to this dude yesterday, and I'm not going to work on it. Like, I'm a little sketched out, but he says
from the surgery or just from him?
Oh no, this particular project.
Okay.
Like, I just got like a weird feeling about it, and so he was like, "Well, how do I do this, and this?" And I said to him, "Listen, just go." Because he claims, or this person claims, to have connections with all these journalists, and I said, don't do any of the other shit. Just go to your connections and tell them a story, and that's it. Like, you could save yourself so much time and money. But no one wants that. Like, they don't process that part of it. They're all like, I gotta be on YouTube, I gotta be on Twitter, and everything's gotta be linked together, and blah 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 blah. It's just do the PR side of things, and the rest will follow.
It's true. I recently read an article, I think on Huffington Post, and I really liked the article, and at the bottom it said the girl's Twitter handle, and I clicked on her Twitter handle and followed her.
Right. It's dead simple,
Yeah. I think a lot of people think there's this magic trick. Again, there is a little magic, which you talked about with the algorithms, right. And I think that's important for people to understand. And you guys can find out more by buying his book, which is a really, really good read. And it's a quick read. It's not long and boring statistical stuff, because sometimes social media marketing books, which I've read some, are really boring.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, this is 176 pages.
It was really quick and it was really fun. And now you're working on another book, which I am going to reveal that I was blessed enough you gave me the first few chapters to read. And I really like what I read. How is the writing process going on with your second book?
It's okay. It's so it's kind of weird because the media doesn't like for people to be two things. So like they very much want you to have some kind of identifier. So like in your case, they might be, oh, she's a really funny comedian. But if you tell them, oh, she does this, and this, like they're not gonna, their brain just sort of fries. And
that is really true. I know comedians that are also talented actors and have been in quite a number of pretty big films, and people will always know them as a stand-up.
Exactly. And that's a huge problem because it's like, so, and I'm going through that right now because the new book, I'm actually working on three books at once. And the one I sent your way is like, it's a comedy book. It has really nothing to do with anything that I've done before. It's actually
people want you to do more marketing books?
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to tell me, BJ?
Yeah. So this is what I'm going to do. This was my great compromise. Because the thing that I heard most about social media is bullshit. It's like, okay, I know that this stuff is bullshit. I got it. Now what the fuck do I do? And I was kind of like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a really short thing that's just because I'm convinced. Like, this is my thing to back up all. I have a theory that fame is like a formula that anyone can recreate and follow. Like, if you do this, this, and this, you could be famous. And so I was like, all right, what if we took that and we just broke it down step by step by step and said, if you do this at this time and spend like this much money, you will get this, and then put that out. This way, whenever someone says to me, okay, I read the first book and I know this stuff is bullshit, now what do? I can just kind of hand them it's an ebook and just say, here you go.
People do like that. I am a huge Robert Kiyosaki follower. He wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know if you know that book. And all of his follow-up books, which I've read all of them, I love them, but it's like the same thing kind of regurgitated over and over and over again. And the same thing with some of the other finance guys that I really like. And also, who was I thinking of that I totally forgot? Tim Ferriss. He does. I love Tim Ferriss, but he, did 4 Hour Work Week, and then he did 4 Hour Body, and then he took the word 4 hour. And no one can have it.
I've got issues with Mr. Ferriss. I like the first book quite a bit, But
I do like the first book, but he's like 4-hour body and 4-hour this and 4-hour that, and so it's like he kind of, what you said, took the spin-off technique. It's like people freak out, right? Danielle Steele can't write like a Harry Potter book. She has to write romance novels only.
And it's crazy. It's like a crazy thing. I mean, my whole thing with Tim Ferriss is that, like, I'm convinced that he's writing books for dudes with money. Like that's I mean, that's okay because that's his audience. But the thing that bothers me is that he'll then go around to other people and he'll start saying, well, anyone could do the 4-hour work week. And then when you actually read the book, you're like, shit, this is going to run me at least $20,000. If I do everything step by step the way that he's describing it,
like hiring the assistant, and
right.
So for those of you who've not read 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss writes a book about how you can create wealth and have a very short work week by doing internet businesses and he gives suggestions and stuff like that, and hiring an internet assistant and outsourcing stuff. And I haven't tried any of this stuff. I tried to find an e-business because he talks about how you should find this e-business to just generate the income. That is easier said than done.
It's a lot of time and money. Because all the things you have to research it. You can't just open a business. It doesn't matter if it's online or not. You got to like do the customer research and then developing customer persona and then customer acquisition before you do anything.
I think when he released the book, it may have been possible, but now a lot of the market for e-businesses has been so flooded.
Right.
That it's not, I don't think his book is as current as it was, 5-6 years ago, or I don't even know when it was written. Especially
with the virtual assistants, because there's now sort of a backlash against them. One, because they suck. I mean,
have you tried them? I haven't tried a virtual assistant yet.
I did one immediately after I read the book back in, Jesus, when was this? This had to have been the spring of it was the spring of 2007. It wasn't long after the book came out, and I tried them. And
was it because of the English language skills or what?
Well, that's only the first part. I mean, that's the most obvious part of it. But like they don't. Okay, so like even if you think a task is real, and I'll give you an example. This is one of those like secrets to gaming Google. So part of digital reputation management, or DRM, is to create this grid of websites linking back to your website, right? So it's very easy to do, like a monkey can do it, but it takes weeks to go through. There's a list of about 600, but I've cut it down to 3. And you gotta sit there and manually enter the same shit over and over and over and over. And I was kind of like, okay, I don't feel like doing this. So I'm going to hire, a virtual assistant to go, and I'm going to give them, and I follow the directions that he had in the book. I'm going to make it very, very simple. You could fill out each category on those websites with SEO friendly language, and you're going to link back to my main website, and you're just going to go down the line. And by the time that they were done, it was just so fucked up. And I was thinking, literally all they had to do was copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Like that was it. And it wasn't just an isolated.
It was like BarackMendelson.com. You're like, that's not my website.
Exactly. Although that is an awesome name. I kind of want to register that and do like a photo mashup of me and Obama, which would be hilarious because I'm like a gangly Jewish white guy, and
you're like, it said BJ Mendelson, and
exactly.
the virtual assistant's like, sorry, I'm an idiot. So it was bad. It was fucked up.
Oh yeah, no. So like, there's a person in India that I still work with now, and she's very sweet, and she does a very specific task, and I can't say what it is because it'll get her and me in trouble. But
illegal drug trafficking.
That's right. But like,
are you running a brothel in India?
Oh, I totally should. I think Indian girls are pretty, so I totally should. No, but Gia, so like. Even today, and this is now almost a full 7 years since 4-Hour Workweek came out. Like, there's still there's the language barrier, and then there's concepts that might be really simple to us, but to like another culture,
it gets lost in translation.
Right? They just have no idea. And so even if you hire an American, I hired someone in Portland to contact. I gave her a list of radio stations, and I said, here's the deal. All you got to do is call up, ask for the program director, pitch the book, and just, if they're interested, have them contact me. This way I can kind of track your progress. And I'm convinced that like virtually nothing was done. So
because the person wasn't getting what you wanted done, or because
they took the money and did nothing.
Okay, so there's a high risk of that with e-assistants or virtual
absolutely.
assistants because there's no one like watching them, right?
Right. You can set up, and I've done this because I do a lot of work remotely, and so I'm constantly using Google Docs and different spreadsheets that people can come in and see what I'm doing. But even if you've got that, there's still really no way of knowing that they did the job right. So I was working on this thing. We there's a company. It's a really shitty company called Vocus. They used to have a thing called Help a Reporter Out, and it used to be like this cool email newsletter. It was good for a while, where you can sign up and reporters and bloggers will be like, hey, I need a source doing this, this, and this, and it was free. But then they got bought by this company called Vocus, and now if you sign up for Help a Reporter Out, like all Vocus does is try to upsell you on stupid shit. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take their newswire, because one of the services they offer is it's like 1,200 media outlets that they claim to send a press release to. And a friend of mine used it to promote an episode of The Kardashians because he had actually wrote the episode. And so
Whoa! You're trying to tell me that reality TV is fake?
Oh, totally. I can get.
I'm kidding.
I can get. That's a whole thing.
You're trying to tell me that Keeping Up with the Kardashians is not a real show and it's scripted?
Oh, completely.
I can't believe this, BJ. I'm quitting the entertainment industry.
I'm quitting the internet. No, see, that whole. Hold on. I'll get to that. So we just sort of said, "Fuck this! We're going to take their database and we're gonna see if we can recreate it." And like I had people working remotely on it, and I was convinced that they, a few of them were actually doing what they were supposed to be doing, but there was others that were kind of like, "Oh yeah, I totally made sure that the information in the database is up to date." And I go back and looked, and it was just so fucked up. Like that whole project was essentially botched in a lot of respects.
And how much money did you pay for this, if you don't mind me asking, so people don't waste their money on this crap?
Thousands.
Okay, so
Thousands
not good.
Because the whole trick to what I do for a living, or what I'm trying to do in helping people figure out how this shit actually works, is trying to demystify it. And in order to do that, you kind of have to show them the machinery, and that means in a lot of cases building it. And that's really where the cost comes in, because you got to be like, no, there's actually like a set database of news outlets, and if you hit them all at this time, and like with this pitch, you can actually get them to cover you, and then we can do it again. So I'm trying to show them like how it actually works, and so it costs money to build that. But the Kardashian thing was fucking ridiculous, because it was an episode of, I wonder if my friend's going to kill me for talking too much about this, but it was an episode of like the fat one and Kim go to Miami.
Okay.
And I can't think of her name, and I don't really want to know what her name is. Chloe, right?
Chloe and Courtney. I think Chloe is the larger one.
Okay. So like they had the show set.
Poor girl. Her hubby's on drugs. Come on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mean, like I make fun of her, but my whole thing is that like all of the Kardashians are heartless monsters.
Yeah, and they're also multimillionaires, so we can poke fun of them, actually. Because you know what? I am recording from my studio apartment, so fuck them.
There you go.
Where's my mansion, BJ?
It's coming. I'm convinced of that. But so he wrote this episode, and like in the episode, they ride around on his scooters. It was a scooter product, and so in the episode, they're all like, "Oh, these are awesome and so cool, and I want one of my own."
So it was product placement?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
And that happens all the time. Like anytime that you see shit in reality television shows that belongs to a company, either it was a case like my friend where he wrote the episode, or it was a case of they paid a lot of money.
It's pretty bad. I've seen shows where they zoom in on the freaking Coke bottle, and I even saw a 2020 episode on New Year's Eve that I swear was like 100% paid for. I mean, I'm sorry. They were interviewing a woman who went a year without looking in the mirror, and they're like, and this year of not looking in the mirror was documented in her new upcoming book that's going to be released next month.
Of course.
And then they like zoom in on the book like 10 times. I'm like, okay, because the story was so boring. I'm sorry to whoever this woman was. It was basically like she was trying to like find inner beauty by not looking in the mirror for a year. But honestly, the news story, I was like falling asleep because it was so boring. And it was obviously a paid advertisement when they zoomed in on her book for like 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. And this happens all, like anything that you see on the Today Show and Good Morning New York and all them, like anytime that they do one of those beauty or cosmetic segments, that's all paid for.
So I can just pay to like promote my podcast? Like, how could I do that? How would I do that?
Okay.
Like write a fake story about how podcasting's taking off or something?
Let me put it to you this way. I had a conversation last week, and it was...
I mean, I don't have the money. I'm a freaking stand-up comedian. I don't have the money to pay for these fake ads, but hypothetically speaking, if I won the lottery and I wanted to promote my podcast.
Right, and so, like, and that's the shitty thing that, like, no one really wants to acknowledge. So, like, the conversation I had went like this. This particular thing, it can't be too specific, has money to spend, and so it was said to me, what happens to artists and individuals and companies that don't have the kind of money that we do? And my response was, well, they're fucked, because so much of how the internet works now, it's mostly run by big companies, and if you've got the money to spend, you can make yourself famous overnight. But if you're the rest of us, the 99% if you want to go, although I never really thought that was accurate, but like the majority of us, I
think it's like 80-20.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's 99, but yeah, it's definitely an imbalance. And if you're in that group that's within the imbalance, then your choices are pretty much PR, because that there's a small cost to it, but what it would cost you to do what these other companies are doing, forget it. There's just no way.
So how much would it cost if I wanted to do, because I've seen people on the Today Show pushing certain products or pushing certain things, and I'm like, okay, even the way they're talking sounds like a freaking ad. So say I wanted to like promote my podcast and I had, a bunch of money, how would I even go about doing this? Are there like advertising departments that you contact, or like what?
Oh, yeah. So like I'll use Coden, for example. Okay. Because I went through this whole thing with St. Martin's where I was trying to do press for the book, and they were like, fuck you, sit there and do nothing. And,
okay. Why? Don't they want you to sell the book?
It's so like, yeah, exactly. Like that's every time I tell people this, like, because the logical thing is they would make money by you selling the book, but the book industry isn't logical. It's really like a small club. And so they kind of feel threatened. That's what I was told by my agent. Like they felt threatened that I was calling like the segment producers and talent bookers and saying, hey, I got this funny book. And so I had called Conan, and that led to a fucking meltdown from my publisher. But months later, I was kind of like, okay, there's got to be another way to do this. How can I get on Conan and promote my book? So what I did was I found this person. She has some, let's see if I can find it real quick. She has some title like integrated marketing supervisor, some shit like that.
Okay. And how do these people get hired?
Oh, every show's got them. Every show has someone like that handles branded content featured within the show. And so, wait, hang on. Her name is Tanisha, and let's see if I can actually find her title. And I'm sorry, Tanisha, for outing you. So her name is Tanisha Fields, and I can't. I've got my email to her. Here we go. Just a second. She's the director of integrated marketing and sponsorships at Conan. And I don't remember how I found her, but I found Tanisha, and I was like, hey, I would like to buy a segment on Conan where, we would come in and we had this whole stupid thing planned out where I was making friends with Andy Richter, and Conan was getting jealous, and Conan wanted to know why I was being friends with Andy and not Conan. It was because Andy liked my book and Conan didn't. So it was just like this whole stupid thing like that. But that's something that if you give a person like Tanisha in that role money, you can make that happen. And that's
how much are these segments?
Oh,
are they?
We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Hundreds and thousands of dollars.
And
Okay.
and that's the rub, right? Because then you're kind of like, well, how the fuck do I pay for that? And so we had this whole thing. We were going to find a sponsor to pay for it, and just like shit like that you could do. But that's like, if you had money, that's what you do. You find people like Tanisha, and I want to be really careful, and I'm not like putting her down or anything like that. I'm describing her job at Conan. Like, you would find her and say, I would like to do this segment. We would give you this much money. That happens at every show in the entire country. It happens on radio also, although radio has some really tight rules.
I think a lot of people just don't know that, and I think it's really important that they know that, because I mean, I have a friend, his daughter's in the music industry. He is a very, very, very wealthy person, and he has been able to buy her the right connections and meetings to get a deal at Warner Brothers.
Exactly.
Now, she is a very beautiful girl, and she's talented. I'm not going to take her talent away from her. But is she the best singer? Is she the best songwriter? She's okay. She's good. You know, she'll probably do really well and be successful. But what about the insanely talented singers that live in, like, Ohio, or people that come here trying to make it, and their parents are just, you know, average people, teachers, and, you know, blue-collar workers, and they're trying to make it. It's like, we don't have a chance, and that's something I really did not understand the Hollywood game when I moved to Hollywood, and I wish I would have been more informed. I mean, I was really naive. I was part of the 80% that was just clueless.
It's tough. I mean, like, you know, my mom was a homemaker, my dad was a teacher, so, you know, I'm exactly in that situation, and for us...
What? BJ, you're Jewish! What? Your dad's supposed to be a...
I know.
What kind of Jews are you?
We're like the worst kind.
My parents are very Asian, BJ, so I can make fun of that. Okay, my mom had a nail salon.
Right.
And my dad was an engineer. So they were like filled out. When they came to America, there was a little box that they checked out that said you can only do these careers. And my mom didn't want to work at the massage parlor giving hand jobs, so she chose a nail salon.
Oh, there you go. And my brother is actually marrying a woman who's Chinese by way of Malaysia. And so
that's very Jewish.
Exactly. And it's great because she's Buddhist, he's Jewish, and they're about to get, you know, in March he's going to give birth, and they don't have a name for the baby, so we've just been calling the baby Little Baby Jubu.
I love it. By the way, everyone, BJ does stand up as well, and he's very funny.
Oh, thank you.
So I forgot to mention that because I was mentioning you as only one thing. I was being a bad girl. You're multiple things.
It's okay. The stand-up comedy thing, I really... So, like, my location sort of limits me. Like, I'm hoping to actually move to a place where I can go and do it regularly, because I haven't done it regularly in such a long time that, like, I've been getting on stage over the past year in front of thousands of people, and I've been making them laugh. So I know that I kind of still got it. Like, I could still, you know, work the room and work different audiences, but I'm a big believer that, like, for stand-up comedy, you got to do it almost every night, or just fairly routinely, so that you're kind of like in that rhythm. And I'm just not. I
think fairly routinely. There was a time when I was going manic in my early years, the first few years I started, where I was getting up every single night. And honestly, I think it helped me because I was new. But now that I've been doing it for a while, if I do stand up every night, I kind of get like mental. So I need a break.
It's a rough industry because everyone is so cutthroat that like it's very difficult to do it every night and be exposed to other comics who might not be supportive and just kind of want to cut you down.
It's a cutthroat industry because it's actually a very, very high art form, but in Hollywood, or entertainment industry in general, it's actually not very respected. It's like the bottom of the totem pole.
Right.
Because usually people use it as a launching pad. Like, people will do stand-up to launch their career, to get a sitcom, or launch their career into movies and stuff like that. But actually, and a lot of people that do stand-up, a lot of people don't do stand-up once they've made it. Like, I know people who have made it in the industry and use stand-up as a launching pad, and they won't do stand-up again because it's so hard.
Oh, it's insanely difficult. I think people don't... I mean, people... You have to remember, stand-up isn't too far removed from coming out of the strip clubs. Like, that's still about, like, 60 years, maybe a little less than that. That was, like, you know, because that's Lenny Bruce. Before him, that's really...
I actually did stand up in a strip club, BJ.
Did you?
It was hilarious / awkward. It was me and another girl, and she's kind of cute, and I'm kind of cute. And so it was stripper, then stand up, then stripper, then stand up. And guys would walk in and they would be like, why are these strippers talking with clothes on?
That's awesome.
And the strippers were more into the show than the male audience members. Obviously, the strippers were very supportive because they were just like, because there's not just like one stripper. There's like one or two girls that are on the stage, and the rest of the girls are like trying to walk the room and get lap dances or just chill and texting on their phones.
Oh, it's true. I have all the respect in the world for them because that's got to be one of the hardest jobs. And people
I think one of the hardest jobs is performing stand-up on stage during the stripping when guys are why is this stupid bitch talking?
That definitely tops the list. I think
if you were on there, people would have been like, oh, there's a stand-up show. But because me and my friend Gail were performing and we're both girls and, we're not, like 400 pounds and whatever, pizza face, they were like, we could have been strippers. They were like, why are they talking? Why do they have full clothes on? This is the worst strip club ever.
That should be an episode of like a web series. I think that's perfect on so many levels. That's awesome.
I want to talk to you about web stuff.
Sure.
Not web series, but I just headlined in San Diego and I got 45 minutes of really great material that I shot because
that's awesome.
As a comedian, it's hard to get tape. For some reason, it's like impossible to get a good tape, right?
Oh, definitely.
So I taped every single show. I did 4 shows, 2 shows a night, and I recorded every show. And I finally got a good tape because every single time people listen to my podcast or follow me on Twitter, they go, "Oh, how come your clips on YouTube are 4 years old, Rosie?" and you don't even do those jokes anymore. I'm like, I need to update my YouTube.
Right.
So I'm going to cut it up into clips. If I put a clip online, what is the best way for me to maximize exposure with it and maximize views and maximize so that I don't just put it up there and then 4 years later there's like 200 views on it and that's it. You know what I mean?
So there's a couple of things you can do. I noticed actually that the porn producers do this quite successfully.
Porn strippers, I see a trend here.
Well, I've actually been researching the porn industry. I've been thinking about so my first professional writing job, just as a quick tangent, was writing for a stripper. Her name was Joanna Angel.
Oh my God. So you need to write a freaking autobiography, okay?
Someday. But so through writing for that website and just like I'm a fan of, and I have no shame in that. Like I'm a fan of superhero porn. So I was like, I really want to. It would be a lot of fun to make.
Are you talking about chicks dressing up in superhero costumes like that Wonder Woman? Yeah, I knew that.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, and people, like, can I just say, like, people, when I get off stage anywhere, it doesn't matter, like, how professional the setting is. Like, I could be doing something in a huge Vegas ballroom, and I've had people walk up to me and go, "So, you like girls in Wonder Woman costumes, huh?" It's really funny because I thought, like, it started as a joke, but people, for whatever reason, responded to it because they're like, "Oh, hey, it's kind of like this funny. He's like this funny geek," and that kind of became an identifier. So I wound up like talking to girls who work in the business, and I was kind of like, they've been telling me these stories about how shitty some of the producers are. So I've been researching like how to get into the business and do it in such a way where the girls are feeling like they're making most of the money. They're not working in a shitty environment. Everything is documented and taken care of, and like just running it like a professional porn company. And so anyway, that's been my thing. And the reason why I mentioned the porn industry here, because there's a site called Clips for Sale, which is where everyone goes to buy porn. And if you pay attention to the site, you'll notice that videos that you might have seen like months ago are all of a sudden being rotated as if they were brand new. And so that's certainly one thing you can do, like for your old material, is take it down and just very slowly roll it back out. But the big
what does that mean? What does that mean? Take it down and then slowly roll it back out. What does that mean?
It's a twofold process. The first is that you have to have like a core group of people that that if I email, and it has to be through email because the other shit's to Facebook and Twitter, you're really rolling the dice. That's not to say that they're bad, but like you really need to count on these people. And so you need to come up with this core group, and it doesn't have to be more than 20, and get their emails and get their phone numbers and be like, okay, here's the deal. I've got this really funny set, and I'm going to roll it out one by one by one. And what I need you to do is at this day and this time, and it has to be exact. Like that people don't realize that YouTube is very exact kind of system. And so at this day and this time, I'm going to upload this joke. And all you got to do is go to YouTube, follow the link, watch the thing in its entirety. That's really important. Click the thumbs up button and then leave a comment.
So
And
just
then
20 people. So what do you mean at a specific time? They all have to watch it?
Each time someone does it, YouTube system goes, oh, there might be something here. And they'll start to surface your video higher and higher. And you just do that en masse. That's the first thing. The second thing is that
so it only takes 20
you're
people.
A topical comedian. It's a little tricky if you're like me and your stand-up is very it's really like I talk about the superhero porn on stage. Like that's a big chunk of what I joke about. So for me, this doesn't really work. But like if you're a topical comedian and you've got a joke that's fresh and timely, then you want the headline to be very, very relevant, like with the keywords of whatever the news story is, and you want the description to have that, and you want the keywords to have it, and then you go to your group and send it out. And so that's kind of the process that you have to have. And if you've got that core group, you want to grow that as much as possible and get as many emails as you can, and then kind of train them in the respect that each time you roll something out, you know that you've got this group that's going to go and do all these things to trigger YouTube system. So the trick to this is that you have to train people to expect your video at a certain day, date, and time, and then whether you got to give them incentives, whether it's like free pizza when you come see them or whatever it is. You can be as creative as you want to be, but the point is that every time that you roll out a new video, you want them to sit and come to it instantly. It's got to be within the first hour that the video goes live.
So it just takes 20 people to watch a video from beginning to end,
right,
and click like for it to start
and leave a comment,
generating the algorithm.
They've got to leave comments too. Like they've got to ask questions or just talk to each other. And the more activity that's going on there, YouTube system starts to go, oh, okay, this might be cool. And then the other thing is that they have to share it on Facebook. Not because Facebook is useful or relevant, but because the process of sharing it sends a signal to YouTube, and YouTube goes, oh, this could be cool. And so like you got to have them do all those things at once as the video comes up. And then over time, obviously, you want that group of people to grow past 20 and have them keep doing that over and over and over again.
Okay, so let me get all the things straight. So if I release a video clip or anyone wants to release a video clip about anything, the best thing for them to do would be to first make sure that a core group of people, anyone, at least 20 people, watches the video within an hour of it being released from beginning to end, leaves comments, and likes it. And it's also important that they share it because all those things trigger the algorithm. Is that right?
That's right.
All right. That sounds like a plan.
That's and obviously, like if you're able to get people, like if the joke is particularly timely or relevant, what you want to do is kind of have bloggers link to it. And be
what about false tags? Like I've looked at videos before that have tags about current events that are going on, and they have nothing to do with the video.
It's not that. So there's a whole thing going on right now in SEO where people are debating whether or not that's useful or whether
like you'll say hashtag Kim Kardashian and the video will be some stand-up joke.
I would say not to do that. Like I would say like to just keep it relevant to the actual video unless it's topical. Like if the joke itself is topical and you want people to sort of like find it as they're searching for like Kim Kardashian, that's okay.
Okay, got it.
And so if you've got all that stuff in place and if you got inbound links coming from bloggers or if you send a joke out to like HuffPost Comedy, for example, even though they're very New York centric, which bothers me, all of that stuff comes together and helps your video. So
you're working on 3 books? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So there's the Heartless Monster, Hopeless Romantic, which is the comedy book. Okay. There's Stop Following Me, which is the book that's sort of like the follow-up to Social Media is Bullshit. Where it's sort of like, this is, if you do this, this, and this, you'll be famous. And then there's another one that's just sort of short. It's, because when I do my presentations, not everyone's able to see me do it live. And so what we decided to do was take like the full transcript of my presentation at Social Media Week Chicago and add in a couple of transcripts from like my appearance on CNN and CNBC and just put that out as like a little mini book. So that if you've never seen me perform live, you can get like the full text
So are you still with St. Martin's after the big mental breakdown? Meltdown?
Do you
have a new publisher?
No. I was going to say they have the option on the next book, but that's not true because I didn't want to work with them, and so I sent them like a really shitty proposal that they had to reject in order for me to get out of my contract with them. So I kind of wanted, after my whole experience with them, because it wasn't a good experience. Like it wasn't at all a good experience, and so I kind of wanted to put the stuff out myself.
And what does that mean when you say that the book world is very kind of elitist? Is it like Hollywood? Is it like Wall Street? Is it another arm of that where only people who are, the Katie Courics or whatever, lean in, Sandberg, whatever the hell her name is, Sheryl Sandberg, where they're pushing their main celebs and like the little authors kind of get pushed aside? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a lot like the TV business where, like NBC has like Grimm, and they'll push the shit out of Grimm, but then they've got like these other shows that you're kind of like, oh, when does that air again? And you're really not sure. It's like in my case, St. Martin's put out a book from the Kardashians, and so obviously that was their big thing. And then my book was kind of like this little weird book, and it's kind of shitty for an author because they're going to do nothing, and if nothing happens, they're going to say it's the author's fault. And if the book comes out and does well, they could be like, oh, look at this amazing job that we did, even though we did nothing. And so it's very much set up so that like the Kardashian book is, their big moneymaker, and that's what they focus on. And there's typos in my first book. There's like 18 typos in there.
Caused by them?
Yeah, that weren't in because I checked. It wasn't in my manuscript when I submitted it, and they weren't in the editor's version. It was introduced in the copy editing phase of the book. My phone number on one of the pages is wrong. And so, like, people have been calling this poor guy in Plattsburgh, New York.
Oh, no!
Yeah, he's pissed. He called me up the first week after the book came out, and he's just like, I'm not mad. I just want to let you know that, if you've been waiting for people to call you, and they haven't, they've been calling me. And so there was just a lot of shit. And then there was, like, the big blow-up over Conan where they freaked out that I was going around calling all these shows, and then like there was like 30 people who were supposed to get my book and never got. So I mean, I can go down the whole list.
But I mean, okay, if you had a writing agent or some type of PR agent or somebody, they would call these segment producers anyway, right?
They're supposed to.
Why were they mad that you were calling them? That doesn't make any sense.
I wish I had a good answer.
I believe you and I agree with you, but it's like, that's the problem I have. There's a lot of things within entertainment in general that does not make any sense.
Right.
At all. Like, to the point where I know comedians that are hilarious and they're not famous, and it does not make sense to me. I have comedians I know that should be superstars and they're not. And then I know comedians that are okay, and I've seen them rise up the ranks. And you could say it's connections, but then some of them are getting the connections maybe through their agents or managers, but then it's like, I don't understand what agents and managers are looking for, what is considered marketable or not marketable, because as a comedian, you would think the funniest person would be the person that should be the most marketable, right? Like
well, I wouldn't say it's the agents and managers who are the issue. Like the real problem is there's a very small group of people who actually have the ability to put you on TV, put you on radio. And that group of people at like the different networks and the record labels and what have you, like they're in Los Angeles, it's all fear. Like no one in Los Angeles wants to do anything because if they look stupid, they'll be fired. So like that's why you'll see someone who's really funny not get anywhere, but you'll see someone who's kind of safe and their jokes are really just sort of average but inoffensive, and that's why you'll kind of see them get through because it's like a safe choice.
No, I understand that, but it's like it doesn't. With the internet now and all the other alternative outlets, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I still don't understand why radio is censored. Like, I don't get it.
Well, that's the FCC.
I understand the actual logistics of it, but right. I don't understand. It's like, okay, there's podcasting. I don't understand why you can't say certain curse words on network TV. It's like, do they not know about HBO? Do they not know about cable TV? Do they not know that every kid has heard and seen every single thing already, and they don't need to have those silly standards anymore?
A lot of that's advertising, though. I mean, like, the advertisers are very, very active in terms of what content actually gets aired anywhere. And this is true for podcasts because I've seen people whose podcasts have blown up, and like they'll start dialing back the swearing and anything that might be slightly weird. Like, you'll see that slowly go away, and the more money they make. So
That's sad, though. It's like, why would you want to censor something that made something popular to begin with?
right, a lot of it's greed, and a lot of it is just it sucks because like the big thing that we've talked about is that so much of this requires a lot of money, and if you want that money, you're kind of forced into, unless you're independently wealthy, you're kind of forced to play their game, and that's sort of where all this other stuff kind of falls by the wayside, where people start censoring themselves, or certain comedians don't get on the air, or it's ridiculous. But that's we're dealing with corporations in America that are very conservative and very scared and very unsure, especially the internet. Like, my thing, I've talked to a lot of people at big corporations, and time again, it's they don't get it, and they don't want to get it, and they don't need to get it. And so,
What does that mean? They don't get it.
So, like, they'll say to you, "Well, hey, I want to have." I'm trying to think if I can throw this. I really shouldn't have mentioned it. Okay, let me give you an example. Like,
you can use like fake names or fake companies.
So,
like you could say like a toilet paper company instead of saying Charmin or something.
there's a theater company called Schmimax.
Okay.
And a friend of mine works for Schmimax, or used to work for Schmimax. I don't know where they are now. And they had the following conversation with their boss, and they said to their boss, "Hey, I have my goal for this quarter is to track and be able to track sales through social media, and I think I've got this really cool process and formula to do it. What do you think?" And the boss said to them, No. I want 40,000 Facebook fans by the end of the quarter. And my friend said, well, we can do that, but hey, check this out. We can actually show that the money we're spending, we're actually seeing a return on it. And then the boss just completely shot it down. I was just like, I just want Facebook followers. And they don't know, Facebook fans, and they don't know why they want them. They just hear assholes like Gary Vaynerchuk and Guy Kawasaki and Chris Brogan and Brian Solis and on. They hear those assholes and see them in the news all the time talking about your followers and how you have to get more of them. And so, like, their understanding of this stuff is very rudimentary. And when they look at podcasts, you got to remember, like, for Mark Maron's WTF, I talked to him about this at length, and his biggest episode was 250,000 downloads. And so when you take that and you're like 250,000 downloads versus even the worst show on network TV might do 500,000 Nielsen viewers, not counting other viewers who might have seen it or watched it on Hulu. So, I mean, they look at like stuff on the internet and they don't process that it's legitimate. They just sort of look at it as like this tiny little thing, and they're more hung up on, they don't care that 250,000 is an active, loyal, engaged audience that will sell out all of Mark's shows, even though they do. They don't care about that. Like, they're very focused on just these huge
very one-dimensional.
Right. And so that's kind of like, why certain things work the way they do.
Well, that is all very interesting and kind of sad, BJ.
Yeah, so...
Because I don't have a bag of money, which is why I want everyone listening to understand this. Comedians and independent artists, independent musicians, when you go to their shows, freaking buy merchandise, always click on the donate button. If someone is giving you free content or low-cost content, you have to pay it back, because we're not getting paid smack. We're getting taken advantage of by the man. It's true, BJ, right?
It's sad but true.
It's sad but true. So it's like you have to do it. Like, a lot of people, I know people, I have a really good friend who used to go to comedy shows, and he assumed, and BJ, as a stand-up, you know that this is not true, that the money being paid at the door for the entrance was going to the comedians performing on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Ha, 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 ha. Very funny. That would make logical sense, right?
Absolutely.
No. It doesn't go to the comedians performing on the show. First, it goes to the comedy club, and then the headliner gets a cut, and the comedians that are not the headliner will get like a tiny, 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 tiny little cut, if anything. Sometimes comedians are performing for free, even though the cover charge is $25 at the door.
And you got to buy 2 drinks.
and you got to buy 2 drinks. And that money doesn't go to the comedians either. So people, please, I'm telling you, a lot of people I know do not buy merchandise. They're like, oh, I don't want that. Or I already bought $20, to get in. That money isn't going to the performers. You have to buy merchandise. You have to click donate. You have to subscribe. You have to do those things because those are the things that are actually supporting us as independent artists. And go buy BJ's freaking book.
You get it for $6 on Amazon. There's no reason not to buy it.
Okay, well, I have to wrap up, but I am so happy that you got to chat with me for a bit. Is there anything else you want to promote?
No, socialmediaisbullshit.com if you want to read the book, and hopefully you do.
And guys, check out outoftheboxpodcast.com. And I just added a Bitcoin donator. So if you want to donate Bitcoins, you don't have to donate a whole one if you have a bunch of random Bitcoins, because I know most of my following is nerdy guys. Because most people are like, what are Bitcoins? You can donate Bitcoins at outoftheboxpodcast.com. Thanks, guys. Till next time.